I have to.
Special report.
Good afternoon. I'm James Gaddis. We are breaking into our regularly scheduled programming to bring you live coverage of the Sockeye Wildfire burning north of Willow. A news conference at the Mat-Su Borough Chambers is expected to begin any moment now. Mat-Su leaders, emergency management, and the governor will be giving us an update on where things stand now. We'll take you to that news conference as soon as it begins. Now, the Sockeye Wildfire started yesterday just after 1 p.m. as a 2-acre fire. It quickly spread, and by last count early this morning, grew to as much as 6,500 acres. It's already destroyed dozens of structures. And we will take you to that news conference about to start right now, also streaming at KTVA.com.
18 miles, and so within that there's some unburned spots, houses and properties, but around a total of 6,500 acres. We had about 200 responders last night and yesterday fighting the fire. We had about 95 Mat-Su Borough, City of Palmer, and City of Houston firefighters up there starting about 1:30 yesterday afternoon till about 9 o'clock this morning. We pulled in a task force from Anchorage and Chugiak fire departments as well to assist, get us through the night. We've got a couple hotshot crews that came up with Division of Forestry to be out doing structure protection and putting out the fire and walking the flank lines and putting the fire out on those locations. We had one firefighter that was treated or transported and treated to Mat-Su Regional Hospital for heat exhaustion symptoms. He was evaluated and released with no further complications. Right now our incident command post is still set up at Willow Fire Station 12-1. Our incident commander right now today is Malin Green, who is in a unified command structure with Division of Forestry. We've requested, or through that unified command, we've requested a Type 2 incident management team, which Tom Kurth will be able to talk about when he gets here, and how that works and how the borough works in conjunction with that incident management to put out the fire. And the borough handles borough business with evacuations and supplies and support of resources. So that's kind of all I've got. So I'm open to questions from anybody, and so we'll just go around and raise your hand or let me know and I'll notice you.
Are the hot shot crews on the ground now?
There are several hot shot crews on the ground now, and there are several more being flown in. That'd be another one, good one for Tom Kurth. He'd be able to tell you exactly where they are and who they are.
Casey, we heard something about several thousand pounds of explosives at a couple of gravel pits. Can you tell us anything about that?
Right, so we have two explosive depots up in those areas, about mile 77 and 68, thereabouts. Austin Powder owns at least one of them. Those are pretty well defended. They were going up this morning at about 7 to assess and mitigate anything if they needed to pull those explosives out of there, or if they were going to be able to protect those in place. And so from what I've heard, that they've left them there because they feel confident that they're going to be able to protect that and not have an explosion.
Casey, do you have an update on the number of structures that have been destroyed at all?
So I don't have a confirmed number, and so what we're waiting for right now is the fire behavior to die down so that we can put our assessor crew in and our damage assessment crew in to go in and enter those and do some damage assessments. So once the fire behavior dies down, we'll be able to go in and get an actual number, and then as we release that information to the public and be able to allow people to come back into their neighborhoods and their roads, we're setting that up through the EOC so that we don't have mass type of folks coming to look at houses that have been burned. So we know that we have lost homes, but we're not ready to let you know because we don't know exactly how many there are. Go ahead, Nat.
Yeah, Nat Hurd is the Pulaski Dispatch News. Can you just say, like, at a general level, like, what you guys are worried about today, and sort of at a general level, how, sort of, what the biggest concern is for you guys?
Sure. So today's fire weather is predicted to be hotter, drier, and windier than it was yesterday. So that's our major concern, is now we're fighting a large fire with poor fire behavior conditions. The location of the fire is also very concerning because now it's into Willow proper, and so we've got multiple residents, multiple businesses, infrastructure as well. If the wind picks up and starts kicking and doing those types of things and running and making runs into those areas. So yesterday we had, it's relatively a smaller population and a smaller building footprint. And now as we get closer into Willow proper and closer into Nancy Lake where there's more homes and more people, so you have more structures. And so if it hits that and start running, we're already pretty depleted on resources. And so that's kind of the guessing game and the magic wand that we're trying to not have to wave and trying to stop it before it gets there. But a lot of it depends on the fire behavior and the weather, what we're going to. So they're doing protective measures right now. They're doing some dozer lines and some back burning to try to mitigate that from occurring and protect the sides, and then so they'll be able to attack the flanks and move in and get the front of the fire as well. They're hoping to do that before it gets super windy and super hot and more dry.
And how worried are you guys about it ultimately sort of expanding to like a much broader area than, Willow proper? Is it sort of like that's sort of what the way it looks right now, or is there a pretty significant concern that it could, end up down in Houston or further than that?
So my job is to do worst case scenario planning. So that's what I do. And so I look at all of that. So I look at moving shelters from one station to the next. I look at bringing more people in, not only with Division of Forestry, National Guard assets, other state assets, pulling in borough assets to be able to go in and move, and municipality of Anchorage assets. And so we're looking at all those options to make sure that we have not only a plan B and a plan C, but then a plan D, and so on down the line, so that way, if hypothetically it moves past Willow into Houston, and further down, we're going to know that well before it does. And so we're going to keep extending our evacuation range further and further as we need to. And so people should be aware that we're going to keep doing that until we feel that we have the fire under control and can call it contained.
Do you know how many people have been evacuated, and are people cooperating at this point?
Sure. So yes, people are being very cooperative. I went to the shelter this morning in Houston and had about a half an hour conversation with the folks up there. Very, very cooperative, very understanding of the stress that's being placed on the firefighters and the resources that we have. We've got about 210 folks that were sheltered, so about 160 in Talkeetna, folks that were driving south and weren't able to continue driving south and didn't want to turn around and drive all the way back to Fairbanks, so about 160 were put up there, and then the remainder were put up at the Houston Middle School by the Red Cross, who did an excellent job sheltering those folks and making sure that they were safe and comfortable and had something to eat and something to drink and a nice place to lay down and rest for the evening.
I'm sorry if you said this earlier, so is that still at 6,500 acres from the last update?
Yes.
Okay, and then containments are just not really?
So yeah, so it's still at about 6,500 acres, so there wasn't a whole lot of forward movement. They might have moved 5 or 10 feet here, those types of things because of the fire behavior last night and the cool weather. So we're still calling it at about 6,500 acres. It's not going to be precise until we can get out and walk it. Right now, it's probably still zero contained because we're still fighting a very strong front of the fire.
When do you expect crews from the lower 48 to arrive?
As far as I know, they've been arriving all night and they'll continue to arrive today.
And how many?
Once again, that'd be a Tom Kurth question, who just walked in the door. So I can answer some more questions and we'll get Tom up here and those guys, but any more questions for me? Go ahead, Nat.
What kind of investigation has been done at this point on the reports of the fire started at the home where people have been shooting out fireworks?
None. So priority right now, life safety, property conservation, and then we deal with everything else after that. So once lives are saved, once the fire's out, then we'll go back to look to see what caused it. Right now, that's not our major concern. So, go ahead.
One more.
Can you say, I mean, how does it seem like the conditions in the like low snow winter, how does that seem to be affecting what's happening now?
So we had a dry winter, we had a dry spring. It takes a lot of moisture to get, you know, a lot of rain to get a wetting rain, and we haven't had a lot of that either. And so that combined with the fuel sources, which is all black spruce, you know, dry duff, dry ground. The fire is moving fast, it's moving very hot, it's just ripping through the patches of black spruce, you know, probably 20 or 30 miles an hour. Assemblyman Halter might be able to make some comments on that. He did a tour yesterday, but it's definitely weather driven and fire behavior driven at this time. So, anything else?
Well, the residents in the borough want to know how they can help. Can they help people in the shelters, or, you know, what can the average person do?
Yes, so a donation center's been set up, or a donation collection point's been set up at my house. And I think the Red Cross might be helping with that as well. Connie?
My house is definitely going to be a good location for items of sorts.
Yeah.
The Red Cross shelter is asking that no donations come to the shelter because we have no way to handle the donations.
Yeah. And the borough's gonna echo that. We're not accepting donations because then we would have to deal with the donations after that. So what we'll do is we'll work with Mr. Kurth, wherever he went, and we'll look at setting up a disaster fund like they do at the state level. So we'll work with the state with them as well. And so if people want to donate, so usually the best thing for those donations is money, to be able to get people back on their feet and buy the things that they need instead of getting, you know, 10,000 Q-tips donated. Now what do we do with 10,000 Q-tips? So once we get that up, we'll get that out to folks and be able to put that out to the media to let them know how to donate. Was there one in the back there, Stefan? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question about a family that was up in Hatcher Pass and the possibility that they might be evacuated over the top. Borough officials have repeatedly said Hatcher Pass is not open at this time. I've heard some radio traffic that says that it's open to large four-wheelers. Can you guys clarify what's the status there? Can anybody get out that way?
I don't know what the current situation of Hatcher Pass is, but you don't really need to be going over Hatcher Pass right now. The road is still open for folks leaving Willow Fishhook. They can go down to the parks, take a left, and drive into Wasilla, or, you know, down this way into Palmer. They don't need to go over the pass. Troopers will let them go leave Willow Fishhook Road on the parks. Anything else for me? Okay, I think, Patty.
Is that Tom right there?
Yep, where's Tom?
So next up, we're going to have Tom Kurth with Division of Forestry.
Oh, maybe, Tom's not here?
Or we're going to bump him
Okay.
to lower. I wanted to acknowledge our borough mayor, Larry DeVilbiss, is right over there. So we're going to have Manager John Musa.
Good afternoon. This morning, I signed a disaster declaration for request for assistance for state assistance, and I'd like to read that this afternoon. Whereas commencing on June 14, 2015, the Matanuska-Susitna Borough sustained severe threats to life and property loss from a wildfire in the Willow area. And whereas the Matanuska-Susitna Borough is a political subdivision within the state of Alaska. And whereas the following additional conditions exist as a result of this disaster emergency: disruption of interstate transportation and tourism, electrical power interruption for prolonged periods, property loss and damage, environmental impacts due to wildfire. And whereas the severity and magnitude of the wildfire emergency is beyond the timely and effective response capability of the local resources in the Matanuska-Susitna Borough has expended approximately $48,000 during the first operational period. Therefore, be resolved that the Borough Manager of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough does declare disaster emergency per Alaska Statute 26.23.140 to exist in the Matanuska-Susitna Borough effective June 14, 2015 at 12 noon. Furthermore, it is requested that the Governor declare a disaster emergency to exist as described in Alaska Statute 26.23.020 and provide state assistance to the Matanuska-Susitna Borough in the form of public assistance, individual assistance, and other emergency resources to help the borough in its response and recovery from this event. Further, the undersigned certifies that the Matanuska-Susitna Borough has expended its local resources as a result of this disaster emergency. Signed by myself. We have had an earlier meeting this morning with the governor. He is here. I am very pleased with the response of the state office, Alaska Forestry, the resources the borough has thrown at it, and our partnerships that we have with the city of Wasilla and our school district and other local community partners who are affecting positive outcomes in this disaster. I'll have any questions that you may have. Yes.
Can you expand on the you mentioned $48,000. What is that going towards?
The $48,000 is really going to, at this point in time, supplies and resource rentals, that sort of thing. This was occurred prior to midnight last evening. Money is kind of rolling in. We do have some authority to expend before we have to go back to this, the assembly to get further approval. But this is a requirement of the emergency declaration that we are spending borough resources.
So that was from like 1:15 when it was first called in until midnight?
Yes.
48,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're awaiting Tom Kurth, but we're going to have Assembly Member Vern Halter, who was on the scene last night.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vern Halter from Willow, and I guess I'll just say it's very somber up in Willow right now. It's a very serious fire, and I haven't had much sleep, so you'll have to kind of have a little patience with me. The fire started up at Sockeye Road above Cashwitna Lake about 1 o'clock yesterday. It went from a small fire up to an acre, up to 10 acres, up to 200 acres, up to 1,000 acres, really rapidly. It crossed the Parks Highway at Capitol Speedway right there, and then it was on the east side of the Parks Highway, coming down along the Parks Highway. It made a crossing back over the Parks Highway about a mile to a mile and a half, 2 miles just north of Willow Creek. Casey Cook, who just spoke to you, I was in his command truck. We drove through it when it was crossing. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I actually got scared. And fire at both sides. The ditches are burning, the trees are burning, houses. So I just want to thank the firefighters, Mat-Su Borough. You know, I could see trucks in these houses putting water on these houses, and they saved a lot of them. I know of at least 12 to 15 houses that are lost. A lot of my friends, Dee John Rowe and that whole neighborhood, I used to have a house there that's just leveled, really, tell you the truth. I think we moved 400 to 500 sled dogs in a matter of 2-3 hours, horses and other animals south. I think Martin Boozer has 400 sled dogs there right now. And it's, my worry right now, they're trying to, if it splits and goes east side of Willow plus west side of Willow, you would have 2 different fires you're trying to fight at the same time. That would be that's a huge worry. So they're trying to, along the railroad line, which is coming down along the Parks Highway east side, they're trying to do a fire bulldoze, a fire line out there, stop it right there. I was at the community center, Willow Community Center, most of the afternoon and night, and I honestly thought for a while that community center could burn last night. But fortunately, they made a stand there, and the airport's right on the right there, and stopped it coming from down through there, and then it went west, and then down through Crystal Lakes a little bit, and that's kind of where it is right now. And the wind, it's over 80 in Willow right now, 80 degrees, and the wind was picking up when I left 2 hours ago, or starting to pick up. You could see the breeze starting to pick up in the trees, and so it's a tough one. The state, I really appreciate the governor flying up there, and he'll probably tell you he saw it from the air just now. And there's thousands of homes along those lakes right there on the east or the west side of the Parks Highway, and then right along the east side of the Parks Highway, that's where your heavy population is and concentration of homes. Of course, Houston, you know, it has that, you know, the Miller's Reach fire, of course, started south of us a little ways in Willow, but it has that same southerly direction it wants to kind of go. And so it's a very worrisome thing at this point in time. And I guess the weather is not going to change. We had a weather briefing an hour ago. The weather doesn't want to change for 2-3 days. You know, hot and dry, and of course the wind's going to pick up during the day. And I'll bet the wind's concentrated more 2 to 6, 7 p.m. it seems like. And of course they've got tankers here down from Fairbanks, up from Kenai. There's tankers coming from British Columbia is my understanding. There's other fires in the state of Alaska, but this is I believe it's the #1 priority right now because of the concentration of the population in the borough. And you know, it's just, I want to again thank all the firefighters and stuff for putting their lives on the line. So.
I just landed from flying over the fire. This morning I received this request from the declaration of disaster from Mr. Musi on behalf of the Mat-Su borough. I met with the mayor this morning, and we had a briefing before I went out to look at the fire. It is significant. What's really significant is a group of the effort on the firefighters to do what they can to protect the structures that are there. It was amazing to see the number of homes that were there that you don't know only were there because people risked their lives to fight for those homes. As far as it's pretty powerful. So I mean the fire itself is very powerful, but the human response has been I think equally powerful to me to fly over and see what's been burned and what's been left. Boy, we are so sorry about the losses of structures that have taken place. I'm very pleased there've been no loss of life. I know we've lost some animals in the process, and that's most unfortunate. You know, the smoke jumpers jumped out just below us while we were flying over, and that's something to see as well. I mean, you talk about putting your life on the line. They're actually jumping into as close to the fires as they safely can. So the response has been just huge. My ask was, what have you asked for that you've not received? Because that's what I want to know about. How can we help? And it's been phenomenal. The response from around the state. There's areas of the state where there are other fires going on up in the Toke area right now, so we can't bring everything here. But this has significant potential. There's a couple of ways I can respond to the request for declaration of disaster. One is to begin a process and sort of study it, and I'm accepting it today. It's deserved. I'm sorry it's deserved because of what you've done so far. We won't take immediate action. We'll use the step that's available to me to verbally say we accept this and make this a declaration of disaster. It is something that to behold, to fly over that and see and what's again most impressive to me is what's left that didn't get burned, and that's only because, you know, people have responded and shown up in the middle of the night. My plane landed about 1 o'clock this morning, and you could see the glow from that area. But to actually fly over it today and see it up close was very, very impressive and frightening as well. The source of fuel that's available to it is a concern. I don't begin to talk to any specifics about the technical nature of it potentially splitting and going one direction or another direction. The river's on one side. I'd say the road was open. It was being convoyed through. My understanding is that the railroad is still remains open. So a tremendous effort of outpouring in this region and unfortunately this isn't the first time there's been a situation like that. So it sounds to me like there's a whole lot of lessons learned from before, and I couldn't be more proud of our effort as a state, the National Guard, what they're doing. We saw the location where they're dipping water and picking them up in 3,000 or 4,000 gallon buckets and dropping them near the fire. So everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. There's a new cruiser coming in tonight, and there'll be I think 5 new crews tomorrow, is what I'm told. And so I'm happy to answer non-technical questions, but I tell you, it's really quite something to see the agencies working together. I spent some time. I got a briefing yesterday about every 2 hours. I don't know when Dean Brown sleeps, but my last one was at 1:22 this morning, and I got my next one at 6:02. So it's just nonstop around the clock. So much to be thankful for in thus far, but I think the there's more help on the way, and so they'll be here tonight. They'll be on the scene tomorrow morning, is what I'm told. Happy to answer any questions. Nat, looking quite casual today.
Sure, I can toss one idea. Is there anything that you think the state needs that it's sort of requested that it hasn't gotten at this point?
I think that what my inquiry has been all morning, what have you asked for something that's not been available, and they've been very, very pleased with the response from every agency that they've asked for any for. I know that there's response vehicles coming out from different parts of Alaska. Some parts need to stay. We know the interior up north is going to be, it has some issues as well. So being a little bit careful about that. But there's been an outpouring across the state as far as I know. So very good. Thanks very much.
That was Governor Walker on the Sockeye Wildfire. He just mentioned that he will accept the Mat-Su borough's request for disaster assistance, which means that the state will help fund that disaster, as the borough has already spent $48,000. We also learned that the fire, although 0% contained, it still remains at about 6,500 acres, and that's because of some cooler weather and calmer winds overnight. But the forecast expected to be hotter, drier, and windier today. So we're going to be keeping an eye on things all day today, as that fire is slowly inching, they mentioned, toward Willow proper. That means more homes and more businesses. Right now, they won't say how many homes have been destroyed. They will say some have. Last reported, there were 45 structures that had been destroyed. But again, firefighters being called in from across the nation tonight, helping to see what they can do. We were also told that, where did it go here? Some friends and family, I should say friends, have lost their homes of Assemblyman Vern Halter, who called it somber in Willow right now. We have crews in the valley. We'll bring you their reports on the fire and its impact on the land and families tonight at 5, 6, and 10. We'll continue to have the most up-to-the-minute info on the Sockeye Wildfire at KTVA.com and at the KTVA Facebook page. I'm James Gaddis. We'll see you back here at 5 p.m. for First Take.
This has been a KTVA 11 special report.